officially everybody. But I would love to welcome everyone this evening to Careers in Early Childhood Education. I am thrilled that we are here with Gina Peterson. Gina is a leader in the field of early childhood and early care and has been for many, many years. She is faculty at College of the Canyons. She has been a director of teacher preparation for quite a few years now and has made significant contributions to teacher preparation in the state of California. And she's also a personal friend of mine. Gina is one of the just best people you can go to for questions, or she never judges you. And that's one of the best pieces about her. She always comes to you with like an open heart and just willing to learn and live and just be wonderful and be really present. And so with that, I want to hand the floor over to Gina Peterson. We are thrilled that you are here tonight, Gina, and welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. What a lovely intro. Thanks, Jennifer. I see some of my mentees made it tonight. I see some friends and a bunch of new faces. So I welcome all of you tonight. It's Monday night. Good for you for being here on Monday. And we're going to start off with just a real easy, I want you to kind of close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to, if you can, think back over all the gazillion years of education you've had up to this point. Some have had more than others. And I want you to think about your favorite teacher, the one who maybe left a real impact on your heart or on your mind, or just motivated you to be a successful student. And in the chat box, if you could type that teacher's name and what grade you were in. That's our icebreaker. That's how we're going to get started. So if it was in kindergarten, you know, your kindergarten teacher all the way up through college, whichever teacher you felt had a big impact on your life, type in their name, don't be shy, and what grade you were in. Deep thinkers. All right, Catherine, our first. Awesome. Oh, how fun. A musical teacher. All right, we have a tie, a Mr. Barter and a Ms. Callis. Third grade, second grade, first grade, eighth grade, a whole collection of grades. Great. Now, from anyone that put their teacher in, is anyone dare to share what made that teacher so special to you? Some of you added that in your comments, but is there anyone that just wants to kind of give homage and give a shout out to that teacher that inspired you? Esmeralda, I see a hand up. You want to share?
Sure. One of the things that this teacher inspired me was when the 8th grade year, my mom passed away. And so I remember getting so much love and just support from her, that throughout the years, she just taught me how to be a better person, how she encouraged me to do better. And she even taught me different things, took me different places. And so I was able to be encouraged and to go to college and continue my education because of her, because she continued with me even after 8th grade, and she's still in my life now, and I'm 40 years of age. So, you know, she's an amazing person. I love her to death, and this is why I want to be an educator, and this is why I've always worked in education, to inspire and encourage kids just like she did to me.
Esmeralda, that was a great share. Thank you so much. Wow, that was powerful. I see we have Areli. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. Would you like to share your story?
Yeah, so this was through high school, and I was in special ed, and like my teacher, she inspired me because she never let me give up on myself because I was going through some family problems. So you know, because my parents split up, or like my parents split up when I was little, so like I was going back and forth. So she like it kind of affected it with my school because there were some days I was with my mom and then some days with my dad. So like sometimes I was like in my math book, but she would always email me pictures of my assignments and my notes.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Nice to have that extra support when you need it. And I think we had another share, another hand was up, but the screen moves.
I thought it was Adelita, but I could be wrong.
And oh, there she is. Okay.
Yeah, it was me.
Okay, great.
Mine was I just want to say rest in peace, Mr. Barter. He was a principal and he was amazing. And I thought I just want to mention him. He used to dress up for Halloween and as Cat in the Hat. And I just want a big impact. I love him. So one of my teachers was Miss Callis. My parents are deaf and she always went out her way to just include my mom and my aunt in activities with the school, which was really great. And her just in class activities were fun. We make like jars of cookies and we sold a pillow in third grade. So it was, those things were fun. Like it was very interactive.
Awesome. I'm hearing a common theme. Is anyone else hearing that theme about the three teachers that were shared? Did anyone hear a common theme?
Yes, that they went beyond the education. They touched hearts and they were there as family members, as people supporting others emotionally.
Yeah, it's not the content so much that they taught. It was that they met your personal and individual needs and they kind of, you know, did that extra step. So my question is, who's ready to be an educator? Who sees themselves as wanting to give, not just teach content, but who's ready to open their heart and then blow the minds of their future students? Who's ready for that? Oh, I hope I see a lot more hands and hearts come up on that. So tonight I have a PowerPoint presentation and a little bit of it's interactive. There's a little bit of video. And if you want the PowerPoint, you will have the opportunity to give me your contact information and I'll send it to you because there's some live links in there that may help you as you continue on your pathway. So just a real quick round of hands. I'm an ECE person, early childhood ed at heart. That's my passion. That's where I've spent the majority of my career. But I'm just curious, who wants to be a TK through 6th grade teacher? Anybody here today, TK through 6th grade? Natalia? Oh, okay, great. We've got a nice grit. And how about then early childhood, 0 to 5? Where are my ECE peeps? Great. How about college professors? Renee and I have to retire at some point, so we need, and Doug has to retire at some point, so we're going to need people to fill our shoes. So it's always good to kind of think, you know, long term. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, Renee gave such a lovely introduction, but just to kind of let you know a little bit of my background, I started off as a school age after school teacher back in the day in the 80s. Dun, 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 dun. I worked for what was called Latchkey. Those were for low income, at-risk children who didn't have anywhere to go after school. So they came, I worked at the Salvation Army and we planned a program. And then that also was a summer camp program. So it was a year round. And during the summer, if you can imagine, I was driving a big old van of like 24 kids. And we would just go to the beach and go to the lakes, and heaven help us when we went to Knott's Berry Farm and Magic Mountain. But that's what we did. And had a blast doing school age. So that was from age 5 to age 12. And in between that, I was working 2 jobs. I worked at Dodger Stadium, Go Blue, the Dodgers. And then I also was working, you know, at the Salvation Army. And then I took a position as an assistant director, and I started teaching preschool and working with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And then from there, I leaped to being a center director, and I spent 15 years as a center director working with children 0 to 5, and was a mentor and participated in class and did all that kind of stuff. So I've been a adjunct professor since 2012, and I work both at College of the Canyons, LA Mission College, and I even teach a course for the University of La Verne. So lots of fun stuff going on. I'm still young at heart, and I'm so excited to be here to share a little bit about how to get on the right pathway. Because I'll be honest with you, while I was going through school, I know the big question many of you are probably asked a lot in your courses is, you know, who inspired you? Who was your mentor? Who helped you get to where you are? And I'm so glad that I heard a few of you be able to share that. If you were to ask me that question, I really didn't have a big answer for you. I have taken every wrong turn possible. I was on a 5-year plan at a community college. I didn't even know what I wanted to do exactly until I took my first child development course. And then I knew exactly what I wanted to do. But I actually first got my job as an after school and then had to take courses. So that's how my evolution happened. It was kind of, I backed into it instead of going face forward. So there's actually a video I give to you from Denzel Washington, who really has an inspirational speech about sometimes we fall back into stuff, or we should say we fall forward. So anyways, here we go. I'm going to share my screen. And that's not it. There we go. So we kind of already did our first activity, and there we that. So we did the who inspired you. And now I'm going to introduce to you to the world of Jamboard. I'm not sure if you've used Jamboard, but I'm going to highlight, oops, sorry. Need to highlight this for you. Oh, no, I can't copy. Oh, copy. And I'm going to put this in the chat box for you. Hold on one sec, a little backwards, sorry. I haven't been teaching for the summer. I'm a little out of whack on using my Zoom.
Gina, I think I just got it. Can everybody see that? Is that Jamboard link working? Give me a thumbs up if it looks good to you.
Oh, great. Thanks,
Anyone?
Renee.
I'm not sure if I'm good, though. I'm not sure if I got it. Can somebody give an indicator if we're good? Okay, I see a couple thumbs up. Awesome.
Okay, so what we're going to do is you all have the Jamboard link, and you're going to open up the Jamboard. And this is a really fun activity. I love Jamboard, actually. And you get to, there's this little text box, or I like the sticky notes. And if you can see the menu over here, you can click on the sticky note, and then you can type in your name and your contact information. So if you want to be text, just do your email, and then we can get it, and then you click save, and it'll go up onto the board. So you can play around with that. You can add your contact information, and then up here where it says 2 out of 10, there is this, you can click the arrows, and then this allows you to ask me any questions. So if there's any specific question you have, again, you'll hit the sticky note, type in your question, put your name, and then it'll come up on the board. And then at the end, if there's time, we can talk about it openly during the Q&A part of the class, or I can contact you separately if you have like a more personal question, and we can go that way. So I just put up a couple extra boards. And then at the end, if you want to share that highlight or something that you found most interesting that helps me improve my presentation, you can share your information there, share your aha. And for anyone that happens to get, you know, you're a doodler, you can add a little doodle, and this is kind of fun. You can add an image. So you can go and browse and upload an image if you like. So that's called the Jamboard. I just really have fun with it. and we'll keep going on. All right, so what is early care and education? And Gordon and Brown define it as the field of education that deals mainly with learning experiences and interactions of young children from 0 to age 8. So that's why we cover in this workshop today, working specifically with early care, which I consider 0 to 5, and then TK through 6th grade is what we call it for anyone who wants to be an early elementary school teacher. So the value of studying early childhood ed and child development, that's what CD stands for, and then EDU is education. So why should you study ECE, CD, or EDU? Well, quite simply, we need great teachers to inspire the next generation. Children learn best when they like their teacher and they think their teacher likes them. And in our opening icebreaker, many of you shared that. You had many teachers that took that extra initiative to meet your individual needs and to reach out to you and to help you in ways that other teachers couldn't or didn't know how to. So we need teachers to do that. And teaching is a work of art. So let's watch this video really quickly. Technical. I tested it out earlier today. Why is it not working? All right, we'll start. Oh. Love it when you have technical difficulties. Hold on one second. I'm going to stop share just for a moment. Sorry.
Gina, I might have it actually.
You know, I just don't know. I tested everything out this morning.
Is it 2 minutes and 19 seconds?
Yep.
Okay, I got it. So let me go ahead and share screen.
Beautiful.
This looks okay. Can everybody see
There
this?
it is. Yep, perfect.
Okay.
The writing table is open, art table is open, math table is open. When you come in educare, you'll see a difference in the
There's observations being written to make sure that they are really learning what they need to know individually and as a group that will help them move forward.
Izzy, what do you know about the wheel?
You can ride a unicycle.
You can ride a unicycle, and a unicycle has what?
One wheel.
One wheel. Good job, Izzy.
Quality teacher is creative. They like talking to children. They understand where children are at. Just bending down to the child's level to see what they're trying to say or what they need. Letting a child lay in your lap while you're reading the book. You see the family style when you're passing the bowl. You have lots of conversation at the table. Tell your friends what you thought about for the yellow table.
He could make yellow things, like a sun or something.
We're really focusing on pre-literacy skills, pre-math skills, things that are going to help take the children to the next level in their school. Professional development is one of the key factors in helping teachers to grow in what it is that they do in the classroom.
I think that helps the good teacher move from good to great, to know I've got that kind of support in the program.
They send us to a lot of trainings. We have a lot of trainings here. We do a lot of supervision. So we have time to really go over a lot of things that we're doing in the classroom. I'll put her with the pre-K group and she's able to stay in a group.
I think it's really important when you're working with young children that you are a researcher, that you are an explorer, that you are learning with children. Learning is continuous. You don't stop because you received a BA degree or you received your master's degree or you received your PhD.
So I got my BA in early childhood, and now I'm in the master's program at National Lewis, and I'm almost finished. My children will see me going to school and doing my homework and then cutting out and, trying to get my lesson plan together, and they will sit and help me. Good morning. If this is something that you want to do, it's in your heart, you're going to be good at it, and you're going to work hard at being good at what you do. You'll have quality in your classroom.
Thank you. So glad you got that, Renee. Team effort, team effort. So what highlights did you hear out of that? Do you just simply get your degree and get into your classroom and start teaching? No, your education journey never ends. This is an ongoing growth. So that was kind of the focus of early childhood ed. And the idea is many of you start off, how many of you are currently working with children? Great, I saw William's hand. William, what age group are you working with?
It's kinder through 5th grade right now.
Great. What do you have to have? What education? What's your background in order to work with those age groups?
I currently have a BA in early childhood education. But for what I'm doing, I think you just need a certification. But since I have my bachelor's already, they kind of waived that.
Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
Are you working with special needs or typical?
Gen Ed.
Gen Ed. Okay, great. So thank you for sharing that. That was the first hand I saw. So again, many of you might come in at an entry level. There's so many points of entry, and we're kind of going to talk about that as to possible jobs. But having that degree, like you just skipped a step, didn't you? So are you going to continue on with your education? Are you working towards your master's?
I'm working towards a child development bachelor's, and then going to either educational leadership for my master's.
Perfect. Wonderful. You're on a great plan. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing the screen and see if we can have luck with the next video. So that video showed kind of more of the focus on being an early childhood educator. And these are just some happy teachers with their students. And now this is kind of a look at ABC did a what makes a great teacher. So let's see if this will open up for me.
You just made teacher Justin Melly's day.
What's the smart student attitude?
Work hard, get smart.
Excitement's part of the lesson in his Houston classroom.
Legendary. Legendary.
The same is true in Mariel Elguero's 5th grade class in Newark, New Jersey.
Sometimes my little sister likes to imitate me.
Today, the kids are grasping the word imitate. With their creative teaching styles, both Elguero and Melly have seen their students leap 2, even 3 grade levels in a single year.
These teachers, every time we see these great results, they're setting ambitious goals based on high expectations for their students.
Okay, who can tell me what rhyme is?
Stephen Farr, who recruits and trains top-notch college grads for Teach for America, spent 10 years visiting classrooms all over the country, trying to unravel the mystery of what makes a great teacher.
Can you tell me examples of how she makes it fun?
What he found, and is now sharing in a new book, is that superstar teachers need not have outgoing personalities or master's degrees or loads of teaching experience, but they do share a few things in common.
You guys still need tons of help figuring out words that you get stuck on. If you agree, you can show me with your thumb.
Great teachers make certain every student's keeping up.
One of the things that I do here are a lot of checks for understanding that are super visual. Show me with your thumbs. You can see who's really getting it and who isn't. Today we're going to figure out a bunch of ways, some new ways to figure out words that we don't know.
Amazing teachers aren't afraid to change their lesson plans.
If I'm teaching something and it's just not flying, then I say to them, my mistake. This isn't working. Let's regroup. Let's try something else.
So you do that in front of the
Yeah.
kids?
Oh, they're fine with that. They're used to that.
But this may be the most important discovery of all.
We are all going to get so much smarter.
Great teachers set high goals, as 11-year-old Brianna Randolph has learned from Miss Elguero. Brianna, what was your reading level when you got here?
It was hard for me to read because I didn't understand the chapter books.
Her mom, Denise, is now amazed at the difference.
When she got here, we learned that Brianna was 2 levels behind. And today, Brianna is actually almost 2.5 levels above what she was when she came in.
And it's only February.
All right, so with that, we heard, ironically, that you don't need to be outgoing, you don't need a master's degree, and you don't need teaching experience. I don't quite agree with that statement. I think you do need those. What do you feel? Kind of, sort of, yeah.
I think
But what
there's
did
some
you hear?
emergency programs that are set up, but I don't think that's the plan A, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to go into the classroom with no pedagogy, no training, unless you absolutely have to. So, yeah.
That is a starter space, but it takes a lot more. And I think what they explained in the video is what makes a great teacher are the 3 additional things that they mentioned. Did anyone here who can share what one thing was that they heard? What were those teachers doing consistently?
They set high expectations for their students.
Great, thank you, Rosio. High expectations for their students, awesome. What else did you hear?
Jennifer just put in the chat, checking in with their students. Jennifer Lee put that in the chat.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yes, checking for understanding, right? Making sure you're meeting the students where they are. How can you move forward if your group isn't with you, right? So sometimes that means you got to slow it down or you got to speed it up. And that leads you to the next one. Great, thanks, Lydia. Making sure every student is keeping up. And there's one more thing that they said in there. Great, thanks, Linda. Not to be afraid of changing their lesson plans. That's a shocking statement, right? Flexibility. We do that so much in early childhood. We often do that. We take the child's lead. We find ourselves being able to be flexible and see that something's not working and then move towards changing. But in early elementary, sometimes you have a straight curriculum and you have this focus that you have to get, from point A to point B, and you don't have time to mess around. But again, as I go back to some of the comments that you made earlier, the teachers that met your personal needs were the ones that understood it was important to connect to the students and to their individual needs. So it's important to be flexible and understand that not everybody's ready. Maybe that topic is not meeting the mindset. And so you have to be willing to change or put it down for a moment or get your wiggles out or stand up and walk around the circle in the classroom just before everyone can really start to focus in on the topic. So being flexible. So I like that video. It's really outdated, but I find that it sets kind of the tone again, that it's more than the curriculum that we're required to teach. It's learning to read and navigate your students. That makes a great teacher. So back to any comments? Before I move forward, relationships are key. Thank you. Definitely. Any other comments or share? Feel free to share in the chat box what you gained out of those 2 videos that you didn't know coming in. Happy to see those comments. All right, so moving on. Great teachers bring out the best in every child. That is our goal. So now let's take a closer look at possible careers in early childhood education. So you can be an infant, toddler, caregiver, or educator if you're a Magna Gerber guru or Magna Gerber. So you're working with birth to 2.11. And then there's preschool teacher. You're usually working with 2.12, 2.11 to 3 to 5 year olds. Transitional kindergarten. This is working with 4 to 5 year olds that aren't ready for kindergarten yet. They missed the cutoff, and that means their birthday was after August, usually is the cutoff. And then you can work in the before or after school as a school age counselor. That's how I believe Renee and I both got started working with children. You can be a center director, a site supervisor, or an administrator. You can be an instructional aide. You can be a family childcare provider and own your own childcare and work out of your home. Be a counselor and a tutor. Outside of the classroom, you can be a counselor, a child and family resource and referral support, be a researcher, a therapist, an author, an illustrator, curriculum specialist, designer, or developer for those creative, a nutritionalist or chef, or a pediatric nurse. So those are so many of the students that come through our doors. These are some of the potential jobs you can have. I see 2 hands raised. Shall I pause for a moment? I'm going to stop. Oh, yes, Renee?
I was thinking about the list that you just shared, Gina. And, you know, when I look at that, the first thing I think of is, oh my gosh, do I train for every single one of those positions? And one of the things I wanted to say is looking at those 2 lists, I've probably done at least 5 or 6 positions on the 2 lists. And what happened for me was I just got the right degrees that opened up doors for me. Like I never planned to be a college professor. I thought I was going to spend most of my career as a kindergarten teacher, but I got like the right degree, and then I had these other opportunities, and then all of a sudden things like lined up, and I had this whole other part of my career in the community college system that I didn't expect. So I think it's kind of cool because it's like there's all these jobs, but it's not like every single job doesn't have its own set of qualifications and requirements. A lot of it overlaps. So you can start off as a camp counselor and then become a preschool teacher and then become elementary school teacher and then become a principal and then then a professor and then an administrator, and all under the same degrees.
And I love the point that you brought up. It's that you were prepared. You were very strategic. And much like William shared, you know, he had a degree and that opened up new doors. So although in early childhood, we talk about the 12 units, and we're kind of going to go over that in the slide. That is, you know, 6 to 12 units is the stepping stone. That's how you can get your first job. But as you continue on, I'm always going to promote, continue your education, because you want to be prepared when that door opens. To get a director's position, it doesn't happen often. There's one director, and they could spend 20 years at a childcare site. But when they decide to retire, that's one position, and a lot of people are going to go for that position. But they're going to look at the person who has experience, number one, but also they're looking for somebody who's going to be ready with a bachelor's degree. So again, being strategic will help you make choices within that list of careers. So thank you for bringing that out, Renee, and sharing that 1 degree, you can have multiple job opportunities. Sally, you had your hand up too. What would you like to share or ask?
Oh no, I was driving. I barely got home, so now I'm excited that I'm able to raise my hand if I. I did have a question on it was the one that we're able to write our name and put our email.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a little hard time getting into that because I was driving. So maybe later, maybe you can help me understand how to get back into that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sally, I'll put my email in the chat, so then you can just email me and we'll figure it out there, and you don't have to worry about the form, okay?
And you can also, I don't know if you're talking about the Jamboard
so
or
much.
the other link. So we can put the Jamboard link in the chat box as well as your link, Renee, both links. Okay. All right, we're going to keep moving forward. All right, so all those in and out of the classroom. Oops. Okay, so here are some potential places. I know many of you, I've been taking early childhood and child development coursework, but sometimes philosophies and programs, it can be very confusing. And when you go start looking for a potential job, it's really great. I recommend that you always tour the center first and you get a little bit of philosophy so that it'll help you make a better decision. So there is Early Head Start and Head Start, and Early Head Start focuses on 0 to 3. Head Start focuses on 3 to 6. And this is the only federally funded programs that we have. And then there's family child care, there's faith-based, so it could be a Catholic, Christian, or Jewish-based program, and they usually are at churches. Then there's the private industry, the public sector, charter schools, and unified school districts. So those are all potential job sites for you to consider.
Gina, would you mind talking for a moment about charters? Because a lot of times people assume charters are private, and just to give them an idea about them being part of our public education system.
I'm gonna defer that back to you because you are the queen of charter.
Sorry, I'm an advocate for all models of education, especially free models of education for families. And so a lot of times people perceive charters to be public or somehow like a different type of education. And the truth is charters are public opportunities for children to go to school. And so there shouldn't be costs associated with them. Sometimes there's lotteries in terms of the amount of kids they can allow into a program, but charters often operate to offer like alternative methods of learning for children. And sometimes they're also specifically offered in order to offer more opportunities for education for diversified groups of individuals. So they serve a purpose, but I am both pro charter and pro traditional schools. But I always try to include charters in the discussion because some of my colleagues and friends run some great charter school programs that impact thousands of children and families positively. And so I always try to include them in the conversation.
Thank you. And sometimes, again, you can start off in one program and get education and training, and then set yourself up for another program. And sometimes charter schools are a great entry-level type program to start off, get 5 years under your belt while you're working on your credential or things like that, and then transition over, or vice versa. So again, there's not a one size fits all. We just want to let you know that there's opportunities out there in all these various forms. And again, this is something I didn't even realize while I was a student working on my program, that when you go get a job, you think one preschool, oh, it's just another preschool. But each preschool has a mission and a philosophy and a feeling. And you always want to make sure you find that good fit so that you can be successful and you can be the best teacher that you can be. Because sometimes they're child-directed programs where it's play-based and you're there to facilitate and scaffold learning. Sometimes it's a skill-based or a readiness school, and it's very structured on teacher direction. So those are two completely opposite philosophies. And if you are drawn to one more than the other, you will be very unhappy. And so we want to minimize teacher turnover. We want to make sure you're finding a center where you feel most comfortable. So it's always great, like I said, to go tour or test on a facility and maybe even volunteer there before you commit to it. All right, any other questions before we kind of move on about the various types of program settings, schools?
Gina, I love that you just said volunteer with it before you decide to commit to it. What a great strategy.
Absolutely. I wish, I'm going to confess to you all, because I believe we learn through our mistakes, right? How many of you are on that game plan? That's my game plan. I learned by many mistakes. There was a school out in Pasadena called Pacific Oaks College. And it was very famous in the 80s for being one of the only early childhood campuses. So if you were seeking a degree, a teacher degree, that was kind of the private school to go to. Well, they also had a lab school, a childcare for their students to learn. And I went and I applied. And I was so excited because this was Pacific Oaks. This was really a big deal. And to get this, you had to go in for an interview with the director, and then you had a second interview, and it was with a panel with parents because it was very parent driven. And then you had a third interview with the teachers because you were going to meet. They wanted to interview who their colleague was going to be. And so I passed all three of those interviews, and then you had to do a trial day. And that you go in and they watch you interact with the children. And so I did that. I put on my best gameplay, and I went in and I did it, and I loved it. And I thought I was, doing a great job. Well, lo and behold, I got the job. And I left the Salvation Army after being there for 10 years to this uncharted territory, Pacific Oaks, And all I knew was that it was the name. I really didn't do my homework. I didn't realize it was a child play-based center. I came from the Salvation Army, which was very teacher directed. When I said, hey kids, we're lining up, let's go, you better bet they put down their balls and toys and came and lined up because that was the expectation. Over at Pacific Oaks, hey kids, we're gonna go inside. When you're ready, come on inside for a snack. That little subtle difference was like blew my mind. So I started my first day, I was so excited, but everybody went inside except for one child. And they told me, hey, will you go out with that one child and get them to come on inside when they're ready? I basically got down on my hands and knees and begged this child, please come inside. It's my first day. You're making me look really bad. Let's go inside. And basically he said, no, don't wanna. And can you believe I went head to head with a 4-year-old? And guess who wins? Not me. And I cried. I went home crying like I was such a failure. I totally did not understand this child-directed stuff. This was like a whole new ballgame for me. I knew what ECE was about. I knew great strategies, but I was not trained for this. So guess what? I didn't go back to work the next day. What's even worse, I didn't even bother calling because I was so embarrassed. What's worse is my boss, my director, called me several times throughout the week because she was worried. What happened? So here's my sad story that it even gets worse, guys. This is early childhood is such a small, tight community. I transferred over to Cal State LA to finish my bachelor's degree. Guess who walks in to teach one of my courses? Yep, Lydia, you're smiling really big. You guessed it, my center director that I totally flaked on walks in, and I'm sitting here. I don't know if you can see me, but soon enough, I was like down here. Oh my gosh. And I was taking my class with my friend who said, what's wrong? What's going on? And I said, I totally worked for her for a day and left and didn't say goodbye, just blew it. So anyways, the teacher is taking roll. She calls out my name and she says, Gina, your name sounds so familiar. Do I know you? And I had to confess, yep, yes, you do. She goes, you worked at my school, right? And I said, yep, for a day. She goes, what happened? I said, I don't know. It just wasn't a good fit. She goes, it happens. And you know what? That was my big lesson in life. I learned about integrity. I learned about the phrase good fit. I learned about being humbled and what a small community was. So again, I share this lesson to show you what a knucklehead I am and that I learned, and look, I'm still a professor, so it didn't hurt me in the long run, but it gave me valuable lessons as to when I'm interviewing as a center director and making sure I'm finding the teachers that are going to be working with my children, that I test them out and I make sure that they are in a happy space and that they are very aware of our policies and procedures. So go tour the schools, go do a visitation and do all that so you won't be like me. That was a little digression, sorry. Sally, question or comment?
Yes, I have a question. You know, I like how you're saying to kind of like try different things. And I was kind of thinking about maybe working at a church. How different is that from regular school to going into the church wise?
That's an excellent question, Sally. And I would say that even from church to church, they're going to have different philosophies and missions. So I don't want to speak out of turn. I would just say go interview the center director and go check out that program and just ask if you can come visit.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked at the Salvation Army, which was a church based, but they did, you know, like we did prayers. That was probably the only addition is that we say grace, but in a public school, you wouldn't say grace. So like there's like subtle differences in that way.
Right.
But as far as curriculum, that would really depend on each
because it's
center.
just I like to set it. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, just so everybody knows, just a little bit on this one piece here. If you work in an elementary, junior high, or high school, and at any time a student wants to say grace, wants to say prayers, or wants to bring out a Bible, that's their religious freedom. As educators, we can't do it because then we would be putting our beliefs on the students. But just know, like, there's times where a student might come up, especially for those of you who decide to teach junior high, high school, or college, a student might come up and say, I want to create a religious club. Would you be the club sponsor? And a lot of times you're not even the same faith, but you want to support the students, so you become a club sponsor. So you may be around prayers, but you'll never be leading them. But just a little bit to know, because a lot of times teachers will like stay really far away from religion in the classroom, but we have a lot of laws that protect us as educators and protect the children's right as well. So I just want to mention that real quick.
I had that question too. That was one of the ones that I wanted to ask you, because I do know that there's a lot of parents out there that still say, you know, grace for the food that they're eating for breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I want that. So thank you for answering it. That's
awesome. Clifford, I see your hand is up. Did you want to share?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, at first I was on my phone. I couldn't get the mic to work. You know, your testimony about your school reminded me of, I can remember I was at a daycare, a preschool once, and I went to the school, and it was my first time there, and the little boys, they was tearing posters off the wall. You know, they were just going crazy. And I said, I'm gonna never go to that center again. So so the thing is, I took a new class in child development class, and it was funny because I said I was never going to go there. It was like 6 months or 7 months. They kept asking me to come to the school, and I said no, I'm going to this. I checked it off. I said no, I'm not going there. After I took my class and I learned more about children's behaviors, that was my favorite school to go to. And I started running back to that school anytime I could go.
There you go. I needed more training, didn't I? Thank you, Clifford. All right, we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. Let's see, back to share. Hold on. All right.
Gina, I just want to point out, Gregoria just put in the chat that philosophy is very important. One of the things I do is I support people through the interview process sometimes, and almost, I'd say probably 95% of the time in an interview, you're going to be asked about your teaching philosophy. So it's important to know who are you as an educator, and as you're going through your schooling, realizing when you learn about different theorists that make sense to you and like different theories that make sense to you, you try to start identifying who you are. So start thinking now, like what's your philosophy as you're going along and as you're learning from these different workshops.
Great suggestion. Yes. Now I would know, more to throw out Vygotsky and scaffolding as being kind of where I feel comfortable at my level now, which wasn't what I started out. And you can evolve too. So it's always good to update your teaching philosophy. When I started, I was at one space, and by the time I finished teaching, I was at another space, just from like you're doing, taking more classes, honing in on my skills. You should never stop learning best practices and current policies and things like that. All right, so now we're going to kind of look more specifically at job descriptions for preschool setting. And for that, I've given you this link to what Title 22 highlights. I'm not going to go over Title 22, but when you get this and you want to go back, these will go more in depth about requirements for teachers. And here's kind of a snapshot. Again, for an assistant teacher, you need a minimum of 6 units. And you will start out at minimum wage, and then these are the additional. You'll need a live scan, child abuse index, and some require first aid and CPR. So this is the usual first stepping stone. And just to let you know, not all schools have positions for assistant teachers. And it just depends on, again, private versus public. If you're in a private school, I worked at a private school, we couldn't afford assistant teachers. So all of our teachers had to start as a qualified teacher. And so that an assistant teacher basically supports the lead teacher. They set up materials indoor and outdoor. They might implement the activities. They might have to they will directly interact with children. And what's great about being an assistant is you kind of get to be the warm fuzzy. Sometimes the lead teacher is got so much on her plate, so you kind of step in a little bit more and have hands-on with the children. Usually the lead teacher talks with the families and you focus on the children. And you always maintain health and safety and nutrition. Now, the qualified teacher, which Title 22 states, you need a minimum of 12 units. We always encourage 24, and we always think an AA or BA is preferred and optional. So you're going to start off as minimum wage, and you can go anywhere up to $24 as kind of a loose thing, depending on education and experience. And then here's what Title 22, same thing, live scan, first aid, CPR, and then you need these days of related work experience, 50 to 350 days. And so some of your duties now, you are planning and prepping curriculum. You might if you're depending on what school setting you're in, you might participate and conduct ECHRs or use tools like QRS or class. You might be using a tool to assess development called the DRDP. And you're going to definitely have family conferences, and your role is to foster physical, cognitive, social, emotional development for the children and implement best practices. And it's a really good idea to take a look at your ethical code of conduct to make sure that you are setting an amiable environment for your colleagues, yourself, and for the children in your care. Then there is the next level up would be the site center director, site supervisor, or administrator positions. And again, minimum of 24 ECE units. Now you must have 6 in administration. Most of these positions are going to require a bachelor's degree or even a master's degree. Low range 30 on up to 70,000, depending on education and experience. And same additional. And then the center director, you're now training staff, providing, you're dealing with the parents, you're dealing with the staff, you're purchasing supplies and materials, you're communicating, you need to have effective writing skills, you need to have a deep understanding of Title 22, you might even be a program that pursues an accreditation, so you need to know about NAEYC and accreditation. And then I'm going to jump into, just because of time, I'm zipping through. You have, I see hands up. Shall I pause for a moment? Are these?
I was really curious, Gina. You've served in a lot of these different capacities, and I'm wondering, like, what was it like for you transitioning from being a teacher to being an administrator and being, a site director? Like, how did your job change? Like, in addition to like the responsibilities, like how else? Like, were you still with children all the time as the site director, or like what, how did that look differently? Because I know that you've served, I think, on almost all the positions you've just told us about, because you've served as an assistant teacher, as a lead teacher, and as a center director.
Yes, great question, because some positions do have the dual, where you have the title of an assistant director. I was an assistant director and a teacher. So the morning class, I was a pre-K teacher. And then in the afternoon, when my class went home, I did the ordering of supplies and newsletters and things like that. So the administrative duties. Some center directors do that. When I landed my at the time dream job of being a center director, we had 200 children. I had a staff of 30. And so I had an owner at my facility on site. So she did the business aspect, which allowed me to then run the center. So I collected tuition, but that was a small part of my job, the business part, the paying of the bills and all that. We opted that I was more hands-on with the children and the teachers, but I did not feel it was my position. I couldn't be the best director by being in a classroom. So I had an assistant director who then, if we were short-staffed, would go in to be in a classroom setting, which kept me out to deal with the bigger picture. And basically, I enjoyed being a director because then I got to be the big teddy bear, and I would get to go into the class and I get to have those great conversations that teachers don't get to have sometimes with the kids. And I would love to give breaks and tell stories and just interact in that really wonderful way that I didn't always get to do as a teacher who was always trying to get the job done, you know? So does that, I mean, it's a lot more involved, I'm sure, newsletters and always, even as a center director, my goal was to be the best center and provide the most healthiest environment. So we always looked for training. We had the PITC come to our center to train staff. We did NAYC. So as a director, I was very engaged in best practices. Even though I worked at a center that had its own unique philosophy that isn't the same as when I work there today, because now it's a corporate run. So there's a difference between corporate centers, and that's something to be aware of also when you're trying to find a good fit. There's corporate, private, public, and each has their own culture and practices. Any other good questions? Sally, you have your hand up? Nope. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know how to take that hand down. Sorry.
No worries. All right. Keep me on task. All right. So now this is where Renee and I started with the school age program. This is a great stepping stone. And I don't think a lot of people are aware that you need the same child development units as you would if you're going to be a preschool teacher. The focus is you're working on 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds. So you still need the 12 through 24 units. And now the 6 units must be in school age. And I'm going to say back, if you're going to work with infants and toddlers, you need the 3 to 6 units in infants and toddlers. Those are just specialty courses that you would take. And again, you start off at minimum wage, and it depends if you're working in public ed or private, what your salary will be, and you still need your live scan and your first aid and CPR. And so now the duties are more kind of, I'm going to say, active outdoor spaces, crafts and games. You're not really focused on, teaching the ABCs 1, 2, 3s. You're now kind of being more homework support, but you want to make sure that your curriculum is age appropriate and giving them a safe, clean environment so that they can burn off some steam. They've been locked in a classroom, for 6 hours. So you want your space to be interactive and creative and fun, and kind of, I think kids really need this. They need really strong school age counselors that interact with children, not just babysit. So I take this as a really important need for this age range. And this is now the levels. And I know they have been working on, Renee, is this still current? Are these still the levels?
You know what, Gina? We actually can't see your PowerPoint right now.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's okay. I knew where you were, and you're like really close. And so everybody didn't miss much here. So I think you're going to pull up right now the levels of child development permit, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay. Now these are still the levels right at this minute. I can tell you
are still current?
That California, like the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, they are planning to review these and work on these. So these are what they are right now, but that doesn't mean that these are what they will be forever. I will tell you though, this kind of stuff takes a long time though. It's not like the changes happen instantly.
So the link that I'm giving you is directly to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, which ironically is the same that when you apply for your credential to teach TK through on up. But these for early childhood educators, these are permits that you would apply for. And it just all depends on each level has particular requirements that you must meet in order to apply for that. The other cool resource I give you is the Child Development Training Consortium. So when you want to apply for a permit, this is a great opportunity to help you fund that. And so also for those that are students, this is a great way to get stipends for your education. And currently this is still active, right, Renee? This hasn't gone away.
Yes, it is still active. And actually, Gina, good news. The mentor program was saved recently.
Amen.
We got another 2 years of that program, which directly links to this. I know, Clifford, we were so happy. We've been doing hardcore advocacy and it just at last minute came through. Literally people retired and then they are now coming out of retirement in order to go to the project. So yeah, CDTC is still in effect. And if you're taking early childhood classes, please look into this program because it's basically, if you're taking classes, you're working in the field and you pass your classes, then at the end of the semester, you get money back, like a reimbursement for just staying on the pathway. So it's a good resource for sure.
I think my daughter applied one year and I think ended up with over $324. And because that particular year, not a lot of people had applied for it. So not only did she get her ECE classes reimbursed, she got her general ed classes reimbursed.
Yes, each campus does it differently. They usually like promise that your early childhood classes will be covered. And if they have additional allocation and the other classes like general ed classes are helping you complete a certificate or degree, complete a pathway, then they'll fund the other classes as well. So it can be a great resource.
Right. So you will have the link to both of this. And again, I'm sure there's somebody on each campus that you are attending that is kind of your resource person. But if you do need help with applying for a permit, reach out to Renee or myself and we'll gladly help you with that. It looks a little intimidating at first because it's a two-step process when you're applying for your permit. But the idea is through the consortium, if you apply, they're paying for your live scan, which is about $100, I think $105 still. So, and then they pay, I think, for the application fee. So it's worth the extra work. All right. So
Let's
now we're
check at the end of the semester. I always love that because I tell my students, like, just when you go to break, like a couple weeks later, new year, and then you get a check in the mail. Just when you go to summer, all of a sudden, you know, it's like this break and then this chunk of money comes. So the funding comes at a good time with the stipend as well.
And you do have to apply every semester. It's not a one-time application. You must apply every semester. All right, so moving from ECE, we're going to take a look then at now elementary ed. And then I'm hoping this video comes up. Renee, are you able to show this one? I don't know what happened to my video links this time around. I'm going to stop share. Are you able to pull that one up?
Which one is it, Gina? Was it it's not the CTC link, is it?
It's the things you need to know about teaching.
You know what? For some reason, it's not, the link isn't showing for me. I can look to see if I can find it online real quick.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. Give me 1 second. All right, so we're going to continue on and hopefully Renee can figure out how to get that link. I'm not sure if anyone has any suggestions.
I'm working on it, so just give me a minute or two and hopefully I'll have it soon.
Sure. All right, and I'm going to go back to sharing. We'll skip.
I'm very close now, very close.
Shall I pause and wait?
I think I got it, so just give me a sec.
All right. Wow, you're good. You're so good.
Not really, but every once in a while when I show a technology skill like this, I feel really like excited. Is it
Usually
4
you
minutes,
have to
Gina? Is this
Yeah. It's
okay.
that one right there, 25 things, the little apple.
Okay, great. I'm gonna play it and go full screen. I'm not gonna mute myself because I think when I mute myself, it mutes the sound for everybody.
Okay.
So.
Congratulations, you are about to enter one of the most noble professions in the world. So here are 25 things you should know about ahead of time. That's right, 25. During the first week of school, your feet are going to hurt, but you'll discover the joy of simple things like smelling markers. You will have teacher nightmares the month before you start teaching. It's totally normal, we all get them. But some of those nightmares will become a reality because you're going to fail hard. But each mistake is another iteration closer to success. So keep experimenting. You will learn to hold your bladder for hours on end. If this were an Olympic sport, teachers would be gold medalists. You will cry in your car or at your desk, or maybe even both. And you're going to put on weight. It's like the freshman 15, except it might be, 20 or 25. You will yell at your class. You will apologize. And your students will amaze you when they forgive you right there on the spot. But here's the thing. You are also going to have amazing lessons, and you'll shock yourself with how awesome you are when you bring your A game. You'll leave your lunch at home and eat it from the vending machine, and you'll convince yourself that Cheez-Its and Cheetos are a full portion of dairy. You're going to start carrying around hand sanitizer everywhere you go, or as the kids call it, Hanitizer. From this year forward, you're going to be stuck watching the same bloodborne pathogen video every single year. Welcome to the club. You're going to fall asleep at like 5 o'clock in the evening with this half-empty jug of Ben & Jerry's ice cream and a massive pile of papers. You're going to try to do too much and try too hard, and that's okay. Just give yourself the permission to rest. Watch a movie, read a book, go out into nature, and take care of your health. Your students are going to amaze you with their work and their ideas and their growth. And you'll feel like the luckiest person alive. And you are. But here's the thing, so are your students, because they have you. You will worry about your students, and you'll have a student whose story breaks your heart, and you will think about that child every single day when you go home. And then you will go back to school the next day and you will listen to that child and affirm that child and teach that child and love that child even when they are difficult. Because you are a teacher, and that's what we do. Someday the kids in your class will come back and invite you to their college graduation, and they'll hand you a thank you note, and you'll cry in your car or at your desk, just like you did in the first year of teaching. Even on your worst days, you are going to think critically and promote justice and transform the teaching practice. You will inspire your students to be better people and empower them to be deeper thinkers. They will feel safe and loved and challenged. They will be the makers who build a better future. And the world will be a better place because of you.
I am so glad you were able to get that. Isn't that like the best 2-minute video?
It's really good.
It's real. And whether you're working with elementary or preschool, I feel that that is real for all of us. Has anyone had any of those 1 through 25 moments? Doug, have you had a couple in your day? Renee? Anyone else had a couple of those moments? Doug, you want to share one?
All of them. I taught 5th and 6th grade in East LA when I first started teaching, and I was so lucky to meet some of those students later on. Actually, one of my students actually attended Mount SAC and came and found me and said that, just some of the sentimental things that we've been talking about here today. You know, that you were the first person that believed in me and blah, 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 you know, all this kind of stuff. I don't mean to belittle it by saying blah, blah, blah. I just mean to say there was more to it than that. But yeah, I've had many of those, and I'm sure we all have. If you've been teaching for a while, you can't miss it.
Yeah, that's why we do what we do, right? That's the cookies and the milk right there, right? It's not the paycheck, it's the cookies and the milk and the hugs. I used to say I get paid with boogers, you know, all the sloppy hugs, that's, you know, made my heart go big. So thank you for sharing that, Doug. And I know Renee, we all know you have a long history of tight connections with your students, that you've seen so many develop, you've nurtured so many, and they've achieved their goals because of you.
I just recently had one of the most beautiful things. One of my teacher prep students who was with me when she was in college, and she already had a bachelor's degree, so she was only with me for one class, Intro to Teaching, but it was her fieldwork class. And just a week ago, she was offered a district office position. So she's now moving. She's now been in the classroom long enough teaching that she's now moving to the DO. And so it's so great when you just see that next generation, and especially when you think like, you know, when people see me, they don't run away. And that's always a good indicator. If they don't run away from you and they run to you and they say hi. And I once ran into two of my old kindergartners in a pub right before the pandemic. And they were arguing over which of them was my favorite kindergartner of all time. And one of them was 21 and the other one was 26 years old. And I said, you know what? I can't answer that, because the reality is the fact that both of you are fighting about this is like the best thing ever, because I loved you both when you were in my class, and I'm so excited to see you as adults. You know, it was so cool. That's when the picture gets full, you know, like you get empty as a teacher sometimes. And like when you make those connections and you then see everything kind of full circle, it just is so incredibly enriching to your life.
I've had a few of my preschoolers who end up in my college course. And although they might not remember, you know, all those little experiences from being at age 3, but it's just for me like, wow, here you are. Ah! So it is wonderful to go full circle. I'm looking at the time, and so I'm going to kind of continue on with my very fast pace, but don't hesitate to stop me as you need to. And I always forget to share, so hold on. Here we go, back on track. So I talked to you about the Commission on Teaching Credential. So here is the official link for that. But what I've also done is given you the 4 types of teaching credentials that you could apply for. So the first one is a general ed, and you can either do the multiple subject TK through 6th grade or the single subject from 7th through 12th grade. Those are the most common. And then if you like to specialize, you can do special education or designated subjects, or there's this one called other types of credentials. So again, if you need more individualized, you're not sure which credential you can get. And also you can get multiple credentials. You can do special ed and multiple subject, or special ed and single subject. So you don't have to only apply for one credential, you can have multiple. And then here is kind of from today, you're all in this wonderful, I mean, this is like the best opportunity that you have all committed to doing CPTP. I mean, this is amazing. And so from here, you're getting all this great training, but I'm going to encourage you to volunteer. I'm going to encourage you to join clubs at your school, and even participate in the PTA or become a member of the NAAYC. These are kind of advocacy things that are a great platform for you to get more involved and to learn more about your craft. And teaching is a craft. So you can teach, and to me, that's a very basic level. But for those, I'm trying to encourage you to be great teachers. You need to get more involved, and you need to aspire to be the best that you can be. And so belonging to these things and participating in these things are just great advocacies. And I'm sure there's a lot more out there. And so are you on the right pathway? And these are, I'm sure many of you are at different levels, But some of you might be going for your certificates of achievement in early childhood, and there's different levels. And it depends on your campus what their certificates of achievement are. And if you're not familiar with this term, you should ask one of your professors and tell them that you're interested in applying for. Many of you are already taking the coursework. It's just taking the next step and filling out paperwork to get the certificate. So when you graduate with your AA, you can have a certificate as well. Some of you might already have your certificate, your associate's degree, and you went back to school to get your child development. Some of you have your bachelor's degree and went back to school to get your 24 units. I have been teaching a lot of teachers who are have their multiple subject credential. They have a bachelor's degree in liberal studies or educational studies, and they had to go back to school because they didn't get their child development units when they were in their AA at the community college. So some of you go back to school, and that's perfectly okay. I went back to school just for refresher courses. Then there's a master's degree, master's of arts, master's of science, master's of education. And then I did hear somebody thinking about getting their doctoral education, organization, and leadership. And then there is a doctorate, and this is more for like if you're going to pursue research, the PhD. So these are all the levels. And again, this is just being strategic that right now you might be at entry level, but in the long run, a bachelor's degree opens more doors for you. So who wants to be a future educator? I think all of you here today. The question is, who will you inspire? And these are just some words of wisdom. I have this posted in my office. And then I've attached some additional resources for you. This is a quick video on Denzel Washington. And I'm just so inspired. He spoke at a graduation, and I just loved his words of wisdom. This talks about the one thing all great teachers need to do. And this is Marcy White book. She is a guru for all of us in ECE. So she did a lovely TED talk. And the importance of early childhood ed. And this is a little comedy hour, so 3 minutes of comedy, because we all need to laugh and enjoy life a little bit, especially during this time frame. So I rushed through all that because I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions and answers and dialogue. So I didn't go back to the Jamboard, but if you'd like to ask your question right now, please feel free. Comments? Question? No?
Is everybody going to get quiet? Oh my goodness. I see Sally's hand. Oh, Clifford's hand's up.
Clifford, yes.
Oh, and I think Sally has a question too. Awesome.
Yes.
Hey, Sally.
I want to know, is there any, oh, I'm sorry, are you going first?
No, you go first. I want to hear it.
Okay. I'm just curious, do you know any places that will help, I don't want to say donate money, but help for when you're going into the university, like, you know, money wise, because I know a lot of these places are not giving as much to help support you going into the universities.
I know that the consortium used to, for bachelor's, you could apply, but I don't know of any other. Renee, how about you?
Well, for anybody who's going to go TK through 12 education, there's the Golden Gate, which is like a financial initiative that just got a huge amount of extra funding for these upcoming next few years. And an example of that, I was a recipient of that. What happened is I taught for my first 4 years of TK through 12. I taught in a low income school. And then every year after I completed a year of working with low income students and families, I would send in a paper, and then they would take away a certain chunk of my student loans. So over the course of the 4 years for me, I had $11,000 of loans taken back that I didn't have to pay. There's also some other programs right now that are specifically like funding certain areas, like, and we're going to see more of these. Right now, special education, we do not have enough teachers for special ed. both in early care and K through 12. So we'll have initiatives there. We also have a lot of different kind of opportunities in the science areas right now, or math. So like, for instance, if you would consider going to UC Irvine, there's an integrated teacher prep program where while you're getting your bachelor's degree, you can get your teaching credential. So it basically shaves off a year of schooling. So there's some different resources that are available. And the more you stay connected with us, anytime we hear of a resource, we just share it. That's we're like a puzzle connector. It's so fantastic. So, and if you're like in a point where you're like, hey, Renee, I'm getting ready to transfer, I can't afford how to do the next step, you just contact me, Gina, Doug, any of us who are on here, and we might not have the answers, but we will find a way to help you to get to those answers.
And Sally, sometimes
Okay,
depends
perfect.
on what your goal is. So like, again, if you're applying to a particular program, sometimes they're connected with their own resources, or they have their own grants to help those that are involved with them. It just kind of depends where you're at personally.
Okay, yeah, I just really want to get into special, with the special needs children. And I'm just going to the next level in the university. And I just know it's gonna, I'm paying out of pocket now, and I'm hearing that this is gonna be so much more money. And it's like, am I gonna be able to afford it? But I'm glad that you gave me this information, Renee and Jen. I'm sorry, and Gina. I really appreciate it. And I will definitely keep in contact with you, because you have a lot of material here that I definitely need to keep reading. Love it. Thank you.
There's so much to learn. We're like translators, right, Gina? We're like translators of it.
I'm going to give
That's
a little
okay.
plug.
That's what we need.
Exactly. And that's, I think, why Renee and I are so passionate about this. And I'm sure Doug too, is we didn't have the people, we didn't have this spelled out for us. So we're very passionate to try to help the next generation. I'm going to give a little plug for College of the Canyons, because we do have a free resource, Sally. I'm not sure where you're at in your development, but College of the Canyons is offering a certificate. It's called the Instructional Aid Certificate. And these are 2 courses that are free. And I think Clifford just completed 1 section. But it is designed to help those, because special ed, right? They just wanted a body. They would hire anybody. And what they're realizing is that's not enough training. So this class, no matter where you're going to work, it's a great certificate to have. We piloted it at College of the Canyons, and it was directly related to getting kind of your foot in the door at our district, one of our school districts out here. I think it's, Renee, I can't think of.
Isn't it Sulphur? Or is it Newhall?
Sulphur Springs, I think. It's Sulphur
I feel like
Springs.
it's Sulphur.
I think it is. So the idea was they created a curriculum that would then help, right, facilitate and get quality people into their special ed program. But I'm sure that if you had that certificate and you walked into a school district in your area, they'd be blown away, like, oh my gosh, you have a certificate in instructional aid? Boom. So if you're interested in more information on that, please contact me and I'll gladly give you the resource to register. Again, you have to register, but you don't have to pay to take the courses.
Gina, I'm trying to look it up right now. I'm not sure if I'm going to be fast enough, though.
It's under, you know what I have to do? I have to cheat, and I look under CBEST, which gets me into the education, and then it's under education, under the personal and professional development.
But it's under community ed, right?
Yes, but now it's under personal and professional. If you Google, if you search that at COC.
Okay. And what is it called again?
Instructional aid certificate.
Okay. I'm going to keep looking while you're talking.
And they have, they teach it throughout. So I think they have one more section. Clifford, are they starting another section, or they already started that?
Well, we started it this week, last week. So this is our second week of the second half. But I think she said another one starts in September, I believe.
Okay.
Where they start the whole thing over again.
So it's like 4-week cycles kind of a thing. But anyways.
Okay. And I think that what's good about the class, and if you're in child development, is it scaffolds or builds off what you already know, and this adds a little more to it.
And also, many of our coursework in early child and child development, many of you might not take special ed courses. And I just want to let you know that you are going to have, whether you know it or not, or whether the child knows it or whether the parent knows it, you're going to have kids with special needs in your course.
Yes.
And so whatever strategies you can learn, I say take a special ed course, you know, take the certificate. It just, again, better prepares you for what's ahead. And we need all the extra support.
Hopefully I just put up the right link. There is a little bit of a cost. It's a 6-week opportunity or a 3-month, depending on if people want to do it self-paced or not. It's the inclusion class.
No, that's not. I'll look it up.
Okay, sorry about that.
If I'm going to look it up right now, and then if anyone has any other questions, please ask, or we'll field that for you.
Are we going to be able to get all this information, or can we see the recording or anything like that?
We always keep recording, and or we always keep the recordings, then we can post them out. We've been putting them up on YouTube, and the Teach LARC website has had some of them. So absolutely, once this downloads, just shoot me an email and then I can send you the link, and then you can, I'll just need a little bit of time to upload it to YouTube.
Okay.
But we can absolutely share it.
What about the other stuff? Not just the video, but the slide and the PowerPoint.
Just if anybody who wants the slides, just shoot me an email and I can send the deck over.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, maybe let me see if I can put it in the chat right now. I'm not sure. I'll try though.
I'm gonna, I just found the link for, I'm putting this in for College of the Canyons. And can I share this and just show you guys how to open that if you're interested? Oh dear, hold on. I think we're out of time though, so I want to be respectful of your time. Here is College of the Canyons, and this is what it looks like. It's called the Instructional Aid Training Certificate. And so there are roles and responsibilities and effective practices. So these are the 2 courses you take, and then they already have the fall posted, and it looks like they'll be in October and November, the next upcoming courses, if you're interested.
I'm uploading the slide deck right now into the chat. It's taking a moment, but hopefully everybody can see that the PowerPoint's uploading right now.
And hopefully the links will work. They worked for Renee. I don't know why they're not working today for me. I'm not sure, but they worked.
Gina, there was 1 or 2 that didn't work for me, but all I did was you put the right title. So I just searched the titles and then I was able to find the link.
Okay. They were live links earlier today, so I don't know if I messed up when I transferred it to you. But I really thank you for letting me share all this information with you. I hope you found a little nugget, and if you'd like to reach out and go deeper, please don't hesitate. You can reach me at, I'll put in my, it's teach@canyons.edu. If you need any extra support, or Renee has that. And I wish you the best as on your future endeavors, and as you continue your journey as future teachers. I hope you inspire the masses, and check back with us, woo, and let us know where you land. We'd love to hear back from you too.
Let's give a big shout out for Gina Peterson for leading us through this workshop tonight. Thank you, Gina. Greatly appreciate it so much. So much. And I also want to just give a shout out too to 2 of our schools that are sponsoring our workshop tonight. El Camino College, the CPTP program, has been partnering with Antelope Valley College and their TAP program, both programs in teacher preparation, to come together to offer this tonight. So thrilled that everybody's here, thrilled that we can be here for a resource. Both Gina and I have our email in the chat. We are happy to be here to, be of service to you. For anybody who is part of the CPTP program, we highly suggest that you talk with your mentor and, discuss a little bit about what you learned today, or if there was an aha moment or 2. For those of you with the TAP program at Antelope Valley College, know that we're going to be getting our mentors in place soon, and we're going to be having some additional conversations and opportunities moving forward this fall. But thank you so much much, Gina. This was a great presentation. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I know that there's probably a couple more questions. So Gina, if you're okay staying on for another minute or two, if there's any questions, that'd be great. And then I'm not going to stop the recording until we officially are done with questions. But thank you so much, Gina. That was wonderful. Doug, I see your hands up. Would you start us off if you have any questions?
No, I didn't have any questions. I had some contributions to make on the discussion of special ed, but it's passed by already. So maybe next time.
You know what, Doug, if you don't mind for a minute, because that's an area of expertise, and I think it would be really helpful because it's a huge area of opportunity. And so if you're okay to talk special ed for a minute, I know we have quite a few people that are on it would be of interest to them.
Okay,
Also, anybody else who's got to log off is welcome to log off.
Okay, I don't mind. I raised my hand because I saw that you and Gina were looking around for this and that, but I wanted to say to the entire group that anyone who's working on a child development permit, when you get to the associate, assistant, teacher, and then the next thing that comes is master teacher. So that's true for anybody, everybody. So in that master teacher designation, there are 6 units, specialization units. And those specialization units can be in many things. They can be in curriculum, they can be in infant and toddler care, they can be in different things. But one of the things that they can be in is special education. So you would have to take 6 units, and then your master teacher specialization would be in children with special needs. So that's one way that everyone can enhance his or her resume with regard to understanding children with special needs. I teach those classes at Mount SAC, and I can testify that they are very, very valuable for any teacher. And then the last thing that I want to say is that at Mount SAC, and I'm not sure about College of the Canyons or any other place, but it could be true as well, there is a certificate in children with special needs, and that consists of course, more than 2 classes, but that's another thing that you can bring with you if you're interested in putting your foot in the door. And you're right, Renee, this is an area of specialization for me, and I have researched surrounding school districts to Mount SAC, such as Pomona and Walnut Valley and West Covina and so on. And I have found out that very often districts do not require any specialized knowledge about children with special needs to be an instructional assistant. That's just pretty remarkable. But what they do sometimes ask you to do is take a district generated test. And I have had students from my class tell me that they went to take the West Covina test for being an instructional aide for children with special needs, and they absolutely killed it because everything that we talked about in our classes was exactly what they saw on the test. Yeah, Gina. So anyway, that's all. Just a little contribution to the conversation.
Doug, may I ask you, are you teaching your courses online right now?
Right now I am, but all the way up to now, I have just been teaching them in person.
Because like at College of the Canyons, we only offer 1 3-unit course. So in order to get the 6, it'd be nice to be able to recommend to my students that if they're interested in pursuing that, because I get a lot, you can't even imagine in TPP how many are interested in special ed. It seems like it's trending now. And so I'm always at a loss at where to send somebody who, lives out here, but needs those other 3 units.
Well, we can do it online. I wrote the curriculum for doing it online, and I have done it online for the last, it will be coming up on 3 semesters with the beginning of the COVID. But Gina, what is the name of the class that you do have? The one class that you do have?
Teaching Exceptional Children.
Say it again.
Called Teaching Exceptional Children, isn't it, Gina?
They just changed the title, but it's along those lines.
Well, there's a CID title for that generic class, which is called Introduction to Children with Special Needs. And of course, any individual college can name it whatever they want, but that's the CID designation. So that's the one class that we had. But then I wrote the curriculum, or co-wrote the curriculum to a complementary class, which is focusing on curriculum and classroom methods. The first one, which by the way, I'm teaching right now in the summer, this coming week is finals week for summer session at Mount SAC, but the first one is very, very valuable because it is truly an introduction to children with special needs. We go through all those 13 disability categories that are listed in the federal books, as well as the California Department of Education. And we talk about them, examine them, look at it from different directions. But in the second class, we then get into specifics about curriculum. How are you going to modify your curriculum? How are you going to, what is different about working with the parents of children with special needs than it is with just any ordinary parents? I mean, we all know that working with parents is extremely important, but it gains even more importance, and it actually gains some legal traction when you're talking about children with special needs, because parents drive the IEP process. You will not get anywhere without the parents' approval. So I teach my students, or I try to teach them, that your skills as a negotiator are going to become extremely important, because and Renee, Gina, you know this as well as I do, parents can just be stubborn. They can just like, nope, I don't want it. I don't think so. No, not my son. I'm like, okay, I mean, I really think this would be great for your son, you know, here's why. But if they're going to just sit down and plop like a 2-year-old and they don't want to move, there's nothing you can do about it. If they don't sign the IEP, that's it, we're done. So you have to, that's why, and again, somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was you, Renee, you said the value of relationships or something. This is always the heart of teaching, but it becomes more intense with special needs, because if you early on gain a rapport, a trust, a respect level, mutual, of course, the parents are going to listen to you more than if you just come across as some heavy-handed know-it-all. Because truly in special education, it's probably mostly true in general education too, but I think a lot of parents don't really know what their power is. But in special education, it's very obvious, because you're required by law to hand parents a parent handbook. And it says right in there, you know, nobody can go anywhere without your approval. So anyway, these are just some things that are different about special education, but they're available to everyone. And I tell my students every semester, the introduction to children with special needs class at our campus is labeled Child 68. And I tell them every semester, I am so happy to see all of you, because you are absolutely going to use this information every single day of your teaching career. I think Gina made a comment earlier about, even if you're teaching general education, you are so likely, I would almost be willing to go out on a limb and say guaranteed to find people with 504 plans or IEPs in your quote general education classroom. And that's where the biggest need is, because general education teachers, believe it or not, I don't know how this can be possible, something wrong with their teacher preparation, because they don't know. What is it, Renee?
They get one class in their credentialed program about how to help students with special needs.
Right.
And now our system has changed, and most districts are pushing for inclusion, which means that our students with special needs are in general ed classrooms with proper supports. And so there's some discrepancies there.
Absolutely. And you know, there's a little bit of you know, buzzing about how interesting. You want to take children with special needs and just drop them in the classroom that was already there, rather than hiring a specially trained teacher. I wonder if that has any financial motivation behind it, but you know, I don't want to go too far down that track, but I just—
Now, Doug, politics.
Yeah.
And it's a statewide initiative. It's not just like, it's not regional, it's statewide. So
it's more than statewide, it's nationwide.
Oh, absolutely. But for our education is a function of the state. So for our state Department of Ed, you know, kind of rules us in a sense. And so our Department of Ed, that's the direction that we will just get deeper into over time, but hopefully with the proper supports.
Yeah. And I don't know if we're kind of drifting off track here, but there's just a lot to know. And I mean, it's very valuable information, because children with special needs is the highest category of unfilled teaching positions in California. You can go to the California Department of Education and look up where teacher shortages occur. And they absolutely occur in special ed more than science. Any other thing that you want to talk about, dual language learners, any other things that these things are all extremely important as well. But the number one shortage, and the reason I find it so important is because I don't think a lot of students really even know what it means. They just hear, oh, student with special needs. I don't know, that doesn't suit me. And they have stereotypes, and I guarantee you their stereotypes are not accurate. So I actually force them to do one of their observation projects in a classroom or two with children with special needs, because I want them to at least have that moment of going, oh, I didn't know it was like this. Oh, this isn't so bad. I could do this, you know, that type of thing. So anyway, that was why I had my hand up. Let me put my hand down.
Well, thank you so much, because definitely it's not my background. I in my heart have endured a lot of being on the other side and having to train my staff who's not trapped. You know, I get teachers with 12 units to 24 units who are losing their mind out of, you know, dealing with children who have something, but we don't know what, and we're not, you know, our hands are tied in early childhood ed so often. So I just feel like my role is to make sure that future teachers get out there and take those courses now, because you are right. You will have a variety of children.
Well, Gina, if I could respond to you, you're referring to, and you have been referring to throughout this meeting, to ECE. And we all know that early identification is a critical component of the success of people, but in the beginning, children with disabilities. So what's true about your staff, Gina, is their ability not only to work with children who have been identified as having a disability, but to be the ones to make the initial identification. As far as your hands being tied, they aren't, Gina, any more tied than they are at any other grade level. There's only trust me, it's true. You can't do anything. You have to work. You can make a referral. That's the most you can do. But again, without the parents' agreement, your referral isn't going to go anywhere. So I would recommend that the first step be a conference with the parents and says, you know, building on the rapport that you've already built since day one. I noticed that Hector has this. What have you noticed? What do you think? Can I tell you some things? Some experiences, some anecdotal, some research evidence, whatever. And if you can excite them and think like, oh, maybe he would benefit from some speech therapy or so from, you know, anything that, whatever the case is, now you're really gaining traction and you're really seriously, I mean it, changing a life. And I'm very happy with those small victories. I know that people sometimes like to see bigger things like flags flying and legislation being signed. That's Renee over there. She's and you too. You guys are the ones that move mountains. I don't mind not moving mountains, but I do want to move lives, individual lives, and I have for the last 30 years, just quietly doing my job. But the people who know it are the ones who have felt it, and their parents as well.
We could be huge advocates in special education. One thing I want to point out to everybody though, we are not allowed to ever diagnose. That has to come from a medical professional. But when you sit down like Doug is saying and have these conversations with parents and families and you say, what have you noticed? Here's what I've noticed. What does your pediatrician notice? That's how you open the door. Oh, you haven't seen the pediatrician? It's a good idea now to go talk to your pediatrician with everything you've learned and that you see and everything that I'm sharing today. And then we'll all work together to come up with a plan for your child.
Yeah, that's perfect, Renee. And the razor thin membrane between cooperation and defensiveness, you have to be ever aware of it, because you can just say one thing too many and watch the doors close, you know, watch the iron gates and the drawbridge go up, because now you've gone from being an advocate to being like almost like you're accusing or you're judging or something. So, and when you talk about language barriers between teachers and parents of children and so on, there's just, I mean, that's why this is a separate field. And I take great exception to what I have heard for so many years, like, oh, we're just going to assume that students pick this knowledge up as they go through their other curriculum. I'm like, how insulting. You know, you wouldn't say that to anyone else. And it's pure proof to me that you don't understand how deeply involved and understanding of educating children with disabilities is, if you think that somebody can just magically pick it up as they go through other classes. They can pick up maybe 5% of it, but not every detail that they do need to know. So anyway.
Sally made a good point in the chat too, Doug. She said, I've talked with some teachers who say it's extremely difficult field to work in, so they quit and move into another teaching field. And this is something that personally, I hope to work on in the next maybe 5 to 10 years. We don't have opportunities where people can go and get a special ed credential simultaneously with a general ed credential. It's either or right now.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I'm looking forward to the day when we can have somebody who goes, I'm going to go to my credential program, and for an extra semester, I'm going to make sure maybe you go an extra semester, an extra year, whatever it is. I think an extra semester should be enough personally, but have both integrated where you have general ed and special education. And then imagine as an educator, you teach mild, moderate special ed for a couple years, maybe you start to get burnt out. So then you could go over to traditional ed, or excuse me, not traditional ed, but general education 3rd grade. You know what I mean? And so having that opportunity to teeter back and forth and being experts in both areas, especially as inclusion is becoming a way of general education, I hope that our system starts catching up with that, because I think it would help us in terms of teacher retention.
Yeah, that's a remarkable thing. I'm not sure, every detail of what Sally is referring to. And she says she has talked to some teachers, so I'm not sure who she talked to. But of course, there's a different skill set needed for working with children with disabilities. But in my experience, and I have taught both for Los Angeles Unified, it shouldn't be more difficult. I can tell you exactly what's less difficult about it. You're only going to have 12 students instead of 35. I always had a separate budget of a couple of $1,000s a year to buy tables and manipulatives and other things. I always had an instructional aid. During my time as a teacher of general ed, that was not the case. None of that was the case. So, and then what you have that's difficult is the individualized education program. But to me, that's exciting. It's very exciting to tailor craft a learning program for a child with a disability. And then of course you have to understand the need and have the ability, a higher ability for communication and cooperation with parents. So I wouldn't necessarily, in my opinion, now I'm not trying to say that Sally's wrong. She's not wrong at all. But in my opinion, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's more difficult. I just think it demands a different set of skills from you. And if you had the proper training and the proper mentoring, and your disposition is suitable for this. Gina, you were talking earlier, you had us all, put who our favorite teacher was. And we noticed that it was all things to do with soft skills like patience and going the extra mile and all that. I mean, you can multiply that by 10 when working with children with special needs, because the absolute predominant quality, if I had to pick one quality among all others, I would pick patience. You just have to sit there and teach them. I had a girl in one of my classes, Stephanie, I still remember her name. I swear to God, I taught her to teach from 1 to 5, not even 10, 1 to 5 every day of the week. And you know why? Because she would get it on Monday and it would be, oh, good girl, Stephanie, you got it. And guess what will happen on Tuesday? She forgot the whole thing. So, if I'm looking for some kind of validation as, moving this child up 3 grade levels or whatever, it's just a different paradigm. You just have to, and I love it. I think it's the proper paradigm. I wish it was be applied to general education. Because we all know it's the right way.
Doug, I actually think I almost put that in the chat. I think that's the next, earlier I said inclusion is the next, like the future of education. I also think the future of education is individualizing education. And we have individualized education plans, IEPs in special ed right now. And I think that we are going to see IEPs start become commonplace across the entire system, where we start having, because we're going into universal preschool and TK, and we're going to start tracking people early on and saying, what do you need individually? Even at 3 years old, 4 years old, 7 years old, 15 years old, whether you have special needs or you're part of the general ed population. So I'm hoping that's how we go. We're seeing other states go in that direction. And it really is the way that we need to move, especially if we want to keep up our ADA and the money that comes into our system. We need to be having these kind of opportunities to make it work. So I see Clifford's doing some dance over there. And I think Clifford has his hand up. Doug, I'm not sure if it's for you or Gina, but Clifford, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to ask him about because I've taken the intro to child special needs, and then I've taken another one called autism for health impairments and stuff like that. Would there be another class that's separate, or would that?
Wait, Clifford, can I ask you what you're reading from? Is it a college catalog?
No, I was looking at my my unofficial transcript to see the class.
What school did you go to, Clifford?
Oh, I'm going to El Camino.
El Camino, so that's a community college. So you're telling me at El Camino, they have a class that focuses specifically on autism?
Yes, and impairments.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Well, that would be if that's a 3-unit class, that would be your second 3-unit class. However, I would say, and not to disparage El Camino at all, they're an amazing college, but I think it would be important for the candidate to have a generalized knowledge about modifying curriculum for all the disabilities. Because if you take that class, you're going to know a lot about students with autism, right?
Yes, but the class doesn't stick with autism. I don't know why they call it that, because we were talking about all the different, and we did the 13, especially we talked about the 13 or different disability
categories. Yeah. They should definitely, Renee, Gina, are you still involved there? You should definitely maybe think about renaming that class, because
I'm still involved in El Camino, and I could talk to them about renaming the class. I don't know where it sits. It might not be in our department, Doug. It might be in like a different department. You know what I mean? I don't think it's an ECE class.
Oh, really?
What is what type of class is it? Is it education, early childhood, sociology?
Early childhood.
Oh, it's under ECE.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? I'm going to pause something for just a second.
The positive impression of that college, but according to what Clifford is saying, that's a very misleading title, and it's not really letting people know, even the general public know, if they do a course search through whatever course management system you have, that title is not going to reveal that what the students are really learning is about the specifics of these particular. By the way, Clifford, I want to give you a little bit of a challenge. Okay, do you mind?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. It's for $5. You know, I'm kidding. Okay, here's a challenge. If you go to the list that shows all the 13 disability categories and the ages of all the children, I think the most updated list is either 2018-19 school year or 2019-2020. You can access that through DataQuest on the California Department of Education. I would challenge you to print out that list. I can actually show you where it resides if you would like. And what you will notice is that nowhere at any age is autism the most predominant disability.
Right.
I'm going to cheat a little bit because I have done this so many times. I already know the answer. From ages 0 to 3, it's all over the map, mostly other health impairment. But when you reach age 3, then at age 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, the most predominant disability, just in terms of numbers, is speech or language impairment.
Right.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then at age 9, which is typically associated with entry into 4th grade, this is going to blow your mind if you follow
because when you go in 4th grade, you go from learning to read to reading to learn.
Exactly.
And if you don't know how to be a proficient reader by 4th grade, That's when all of a sudden the diagnoses come up. What's the discrepancy? I'm sorry, Doug, I didn't mean to hijack there, but am I right?
No, I love it. You're absolutely right. And that is the glaring fact that every student should be exposed to, that when we do make that transition, which you correctly identified, going from learning how to read to reading for learning, and the same thing with calculating, guess what is exposed? Specific learning disability. You can verify this by looking at the chart yourself. And then from age 9 to age 19, specific learning disability absolutely just dominates the chart of numbers of children with this particular disability. So I understand why any college might focus on any particular disability, but it's not, and I don't think that you should only focus on the most predominant disability, but wouldn't it make sense to at least fold in the most predominant disability? If you have 23,000 kids in California at age 9 with issues to do with specific learning disability, and you have 8,000 with issues to doing with autism, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against autism, but should it make sense to address specific learning disability? And by the way, as I sit here and talk to you informally right now, most people don't even know what specific learning disability is. A lot of people think it means a low IQ, sub 100 IQ, but it doesn't mean that at all.
Right.
It just means a disability in the processing methods, psychological processing methods. So Clifford, I'm going to write this in the chat, okay?
Okay.
Let me change to everybody. Let's see here, everybody.
Because, well, it did, under that class, it does say it's autism. It says autism, then it has a slash, and that's where it puts the rest of it. I can't even see.
What's the rest of it?
That's what I was looking, where did I put it? It was here a second ago.
Autism, ADHD, and physical and health impairments. It's CD 165.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
it looks like that the class wasn't running recently, or like they're not running it this fall or something.
All right, I have another challenge for anybody that's interested. Find me anywhere on the official list, the government generated list of disability categories, where it says either hyperactivity or attention deficit hyperactivity. I already know the answer. You're not going to find it. It's not in there. And yet, are there such kids? Yes, by the hundreds, by the thousands. So there's room. Renee, when you become superintendent of public schools, can I work with you on improving this? Because I could make significant improvements overnight.
Absolutely.
I could take it from a level 2 to a level 10.
Absolutely. Trust me.
That sounds amazing.
That department, I'm pulling in all the best minds in the state of California to get this. That's what good leaders do. Good leaders don't do it themselves. They work with a team of smart, exciting people.
Yeah, that's true. It's just gone to weeds. I don't know who originally made it, but it's very outdated. It's actually absolutely incorrect. If I can just give you one example, I hope I'm not talking too much here. In the definition of children with emotional disturbance, okay, that's one of the disability categories, right, Clifford?
Right.
Emotional disturbance. Go ahead, I dare you, look at the definition. It says emotional disturbance is defined by 5 characteristics. And the very first, number 1 characteristic that they say, this is going to just make your jaw drop, is an inability to learn. Are you kidding me? Are you telling me that there's somebody not only in the field of education, but a leader in the field of education who wrote that one of the characteristics of a child with emotional disturbance is an inability to learn? That, I'm sorry to be so blunt, but that is disgusting to me. That is offensive to me. That is hurtful to me, and hurtful to children too, because if you're in the field of education and you believe for even a nanosecond that a child, a living, breathing child, has an inability to learn, you should run to a different profession.
Yeah.
Because that is the absolute heart of education, that every child can learn.
There's no room for somebody like that in this field, and especially in special education.
Well,
You know what? I know we're at right at 8 o'clock. Thank you, everybody who stayed on. This has been awesome. But I'm almost wondering, and I just want to ask while we're all on right now, would we like a special education workshop, possibly led by Professor Doug, who's on right now? I'm already seeing some thumbs up and some hands. And okay, Doug, you and I are going to talk, if that's okay.
Oh, no,
I think that this is a great area of opportunity, and I'm seeing a lot of support right now with people want to learn more from you.
Okay, fantastic. I'd be happy to do it.
Excellent.
You know, I can give you I could talk for about, I don't know, a day about disabilities, because I have a disability, and everything he said is the same thing I went through. It's like I have a learning disability growing up. I had the same thing. It's like, you're not trying hard enough. You're not, and so, you know, I go.
Clifford, don't forget, you're lazy. I'm sure you heard that one.
Yeah, heard that. I mean, you name it, I heard it. And it's like everything I heard, I thought, that's what I thought I was doing. So I would go back to school the next day and say, I'm gonna try real hard. I'm gonna try to pay attention more. And no matter how much I paid attention, the same results came out. You know, and then that's what they say. I mean, the thing is, even though I know I have a learning disability, growing up, all this stuff is in your head. And sometimes you think, was I lazy? Was it that I didn't try to learn? But no, I'm still trying to learn. I still have a tutor today. You know, I had tutors all my life. So is that saying I wasn't trying? You know, I think that's saying I am trying.
Your background alone tells me you're intelligent.
Oh.
And my heart goes out.
You're playing any of those instruments, and if you've done any of that design, that tells me you're a spatial learner. And that just maybe the people who educated you didn't just understand who you are as a student. So It's not about you. It's about the people who educated you. They didn't do their job all the way.
Right.
Hi, everyone. Can I add just a little quick insider? Hi, Clifford. I don't know if you remember me. I am Miss Montgomery's assistant, and I just want to say Clifford was a wonderful student. He put his heart on everything he did. So I just want to remind you that, Clifford, that you're a great student, and that, you know, he would always give it his all. So I just wanted to share that today, and just make his day. You know, I know a lot of times, you know, we doubt ourselves and we question, but, you know, I think at the end of the day is not to give up. You know, we're all humans, and I think it's great that we're still here, and, you know, we're trying to move forward and to keep going no matter the circumstances and the, you know, life obstacles. So I just wanted to say hello to Clifford and give you a shout out, and you're doing great, and I'm so happy to see you here.
Well, thank you. It's good to see you too.
Likewise.
I love it. Having a support network is so what it's about. Now we are at 5 minutes past 8. I love this conversation, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you so much for staying on. Already 35 minutes past our end time. Everybody who's on is awesome. And it just goes to show your professionality and like who you are and who you plan to be as an educator. I see some more hands. Doug, would you mind putting your email in the chat? So that way, if there's any follow-up, we'll make sure that people can connect with you. And then I'm going to talk with Yadira and all the people that helped to plan the programming. And I'm going to see if we can bring Doug in, hopefully next month or September, like as soon as possible, so we can have some more training there. But since we're 35 minutes over, I'm going to go ahead and officially end us. But before I do, I just want to give a shout out to Gina Peterson. Gina is fantastic, a wealth of knowledge, and also a fantastic mentor, and really a role model in terms of like all the things that you can be in education. I think it's really a lot of times, I mean, I thought I was going to go into a classroom and stay in a classroom my whole career. I had no idea the opportunities that would present itself over the course of the journey. And even now, I'm 47 years old. I've got another 20 years in the field. And I keep thinking, what am I going to do next? And what am I going to be next? And how exciting that we're in this field where you don't just stay stagnant. You get to have all sorts of kind of who you want to be as an educator and just different opportunities over the years. So Gina, thank you so much for your wealth of information tonight. Doug, I'm going to be emailing you tomorrow so we can come up with a plan for fall. But thank you everybody for being here tonight. We are happy that you are involved in these programs. We are thrilled that you are the next generation of California's teacher workforce, and just keep working hard, but know that you've got a ton of cheerleaders here, and we are here for you. We are here to help you, and you just let us know whatever, if there's gaps, you let us know and we'll try our best to fill them. So thank you everybody for being here tonight. Have a great one. Hopefully we'll see some of you later on this week. We've got some other workshops going on, a really good one on Wednesday during the day about moving from anti-bias education to anti-racism education. And we have some wonderful leaders from 3 colleges that'll be leading that workshop. So everyone have a wonderful night. Great to see you. And anybody who wants the recording, just shoot me an email or the PowerPoint deck or anything you want, you let me know and I'll get it to you. Take care, everybody, and have a great night.